your heart in the stream of life. Let the pain and the sorrow be washed away in the waves of His mercy. As deep cries out to deep, come Lord Jesus, come. Come Lord Jesus, come. All who are thirsty, all who are weak, come to the fountain. Dip your heart in the stream of life. Let the pain and the sorrow be washed away in the waves of His mercy. As deep cries out to deep, come Lord Jesus, come. Come Lord Jesus, come. Come Lord Jesus, come. Come Lord Jesus, come. As deep cries out to deep, as deep cries out to deep, as deep cries out to deep. Holy Spirit, come. Holy Spirit, come. Holy Spirit, come. Holy Spirit,
Good morning, everyone. It's great if you're joining us here at St John's for the first time. You're very welcome. I hope you're well and keep pressing into God. Today we are looking at how we can turn this time of exile, that is, being away from our church buildings, away from meeting up to worship, to pray, to share in fellowship together. And Mark Gilmore is going to share it with us this morning. How we can use this time of waiting and change to discover what God is doing and begin to break with the past, doing the same old things. But by doing new things, stepping out in obedience and trust, God can bring us into a place of freedom and liberation. Maybe you can't really see a way out of the situation that's been brought on by this time of isolation. I don't know what steps of obedience God is currently calling you to take, but let me encourage you to keep going, keep trusting, keep taking step after obedient step. We don't have to understand the why of God's ways, but we do have to keep choosing to follow them. He's working things out. He is present. His plan is still good, and He can still be trusted. These are certainties, even when life, like right now, feels so very uncertain. After Mark has spoken, Jane is going to share her story of what God has been teaching her through this time of uncertainty and change. So let's just pray together. Lord, I confess that at times my heart feels discouraged. when I don't see immediate results from my steps of obedience, when it's difficult to see what's going on around me. Thank you for reminding me that just because I can't see you moving, it doesn't mean you aren't moving. Thank you for the good plans I know you have for my life and our life together at St. John's. And thank you for always leading me into a place of liberation and freedom. Please help me as I walk by faith, not sight, day after day, step by step, choosing your way above my own. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. One of my favourite verses from the Bible, from Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. So together, let us enter this short act of worship with open hearts, ready to be challenged and changed by God in our thinking and in our relationship with him. God bless you.
Hello everyone. The reading is from Exodus chapter 16, verses 1 to 3. The Lord sends food from heaven. On the 15th day of the second month after the Israelites had escaped from Egypt, they left Elim and started through the western edge of the Sinai desert in the direction of Mount Sinai. There in the desert they started complaining to Moses and Aaron. "We wish the Lord had killed us in Egypt. When we lived there, we could at least sit down and eat all the bread and meat we wanted. But you've brought us out here into this desert where we're going to starve."
Good morning. The question remains, what question? Well, you're going to have to keep listening for that right to the end, I'm sorry. So, as we all know, it's strange times, as we're saying, and one of the things I've been struck by is how people's experience of the whole COVID thing is different. We're all living different experiences. I'd be interested to see what your experience is. So you have people for whom this is an absolute nightmare, and they're the people who have lost family members. They're the people who are working on the front line, 12-hour shifts. I mean, I've heard of doctors working 20-hour shifts and just non-stop, just trying to hold it together and save people's lives. And things have just become busy and manic. And we know people who've lost their jobs and lost their livelihood, and their backs are really against the wall. And then for others, it's a difficult time. It's not an absolute nightmare, but it's a difficult time. There's people who it's difficult to cope with isolation, difficult to be, locked away from people. If you've got a family and you're all locked up in a space and you're trying to do the homeschooling and look after your kids and keep them occupied, that's a bit of a challenge as well. And it's hard. And then there's others for whom it's been a positive experience. They've had a chance to slow down, had a chance to spend more time with the family. They've had a chance to work on their work-life balance, and that's been sorted out. A chance to find a new way of working, a chance to spend time with God, just spend time studying. And it's been a positive experience for some people. And now we're starting to talk about the recovery phase and lockdown coming to an end. So I wonder what you feel about that. I mean, when all this started, I sort of felt, as I usually do when things get difficult, well, I can't wait for this to be over and just for things to go back to the way they were, get back to normal life, the way things were. But it didn't take me too long to realise that that was probably never going to happen. Things are probably never going to get back to the way they were and back to what we regarded as normal, because too much has changed. Too much of life has changed. So we're in a moment of possibility. Things have changed. The new normal isn't set, and there's possibilities. Possibilities for us to change the way we live. Possibilities for us to change the way we do church. possibilities for us to change the way we relate to each other, the way we work, the way we look after the planet. But the whole thing is, the future's unknown and it's unpredictable. And it's interesting, at the start of lockdown, all those polls were saying people's stress levels were way up. And they were way up because it was the fear of the unknown, or the stress about the unknown. We didn't know what lockdown was going to be like. We'd never been in lockdown before. And faced with the unknown, we get stressful. And then we sort of calmed down a bit. We worked out what it was like. And now, when there's talk about things starting to go back, even though everything getting up and running is a long way away, but just that talk about starting to go back, it puts people on edge again, because we don't know what we're facing. We're facing an unknown, an unpredictable future in the way we couldn't have imagined 3 months ago. And this point is exactly where the children of Israel were in that passage that Carolyn read. They'd just been freed from slavery in Egypt, the Exodus, the defining act of God's liberation in the Old Testament, God's salvation. And they've been set free after 200 years of slavery, after 200 years of oppression, after 200 plus years of abuse and genocide. And Exodus chapter 1 says their lives were miserable. So these people had been born slaves, and all they knew was slavery, and all they knew were miserable lives. And they've been set free from that. And it's very precise in the dating. Exodus chapter 16, it says, on the 15th day of the second month. This is when this story about the complaining takes place. That was exactly a month after they'd been set free. So after they've been set free, they've been liberated from these lives of slavery, these miserable lives. They were faced with an unknown and unpredictable future. And once they faced the difficulty, and the difficulty in this case was they're in the desert, they've ran out of food. What's their reaction? What's their natural instinct? What's their default position? They want to go back to what they know. They want to go back to what they know. So they say to Moses, who's leading them, oh, we wish that God had killed us in Egypt. When we lived there, we could at least sit down and eat all the bread and meat we wanted. But you've brought us into the desert where we're going to starve and die. So it's such a human instinct that we don't know what's ahead, and that sort of difficulties and troubles, they make us uncertain. We're not sure of the way ahead. It's our instinct to go back to what we know, even if in this case what we know is miserable and bad. And that was what the children of Israel wanted. So you could say the slave mentality in them was strong. They were still slaves in their head, even though they were free. And we are like that as people. The slave mentality in us is strong. And it's, obviously as Christians we talk about slavery to sin, don't we? But it's that slavery to what we know. And we're enslaved to what we know. And we find it hard to imagine new ways of living, new ways of doing things, new ways of doing church, new ways of doing work, new ways of living our lives. But one of the things about lockdown is it's given us that glimpse, I think, for some of us, of how our lives could be better, how our lives could be different, how the world could be different. And there's maybe things about the way we've lived in lockdown that we will want to take forward when all this ends, whatever that means, whatever the world is like then. So lockdown has sort of given us perhaps the possibility of a better life for the future in some ironic way, something negative. There could be a positive result from it. But don't be fooled. Utopia is not around the corner. The perfect life is not just 6 months away. Because when lockdown does lift, and as it gradually, the recovery phase gets more and more, and we go back to what life will be like, there is going to be massive, massive pressure on us from outside to make up for lost time. And for businesses, there's going to be massive, massive pressure to make up for lost money. And even from within us, there's going to be massive temptation to go back to what we know and living the way we lived before. So we're going to need to continuously make that choice, if you like, to choose the good rather than the bad, to seize that opportunity, to live life differently, to do church differently, to work differently, to be that different person, to have a different world. We're going to have to continuously choose that. And the thing about this unknown and unpredictable future in Exodus chapter 16 is that God did respond to his people. He did respond to their need, and he provided for the way ahead. And in this case, he provided manna and he provided quail on a daily basis. He provided food for the journey. He's seen them through the journey. So that's sort of where we are, isn't it? We've come through we're in the middle of a tough time, but that tough time has made us question the way we live. We can see the possibility of a future life, better life, but it's unknown. The future's unpredictable, and that makes us nervous. And we're going to be tempted to go back to the way things were and live the way we were and give up the gains, the positive things we've gained in this time of lockdown. But if we can face the uncertainty, if we can stand that tension, we have God's promise that God will provide for us and walk with us on that journey. But still the question remains, what is that question? When all of this is over, are we going to allow everything to continue like it was before?
Hello, St John's. I hope you're all well in these strange, unprecedented times. When I got the call from Kevin this morning, I instantly thought, oh, I must be next on his hit list. And I am. Here we go. Basically, when I spoke to him, he said that the theme was going to be around the Israelites being led out of Egypt and being in the wilderness, which I thought was quite apt for our current situation. I remember reading the chapter in the Bible about that, and I remember stopping and looking up and saying to God, how are you still managing to help these people? They are just so ungrateful. All they've done is just moan and moan about what they haven't got, and you've given them so much. And then it struck me that we're very similar to that today. I myself have found myself moaning about the fact that I can't go on holiday, that I can't browse around the shops. I just want to go out and have a nice meal in a restaurant. And I suddenly thought I'm not too dissimilar from the Israelites, how they gave up hope, how their faith dwindled, and how they started worshipping different things. When I'm complaining, I need to remember that I'm complaining to God about his plan for my life. We can really easily get wrapped up in all the things that we haven't got and forget all the things that we have got and that have been bestowed upon us. I find that since we've been in lockdown, amazing things have happened really. It was quite a hard pill to swallow at first because we were just very unsure of how it was going to be. And I guess almost like the Israelites, they weren't sure. But the good thing is, ours isn't going to last 40 years like theirs. Well, hopefully not anyway. But since being in lockdown, some amazing things have happened. Some things that I've really been praying for a long time. My relationship with my children, well, their relationship with each other, first of all. Whereas before, they'd come in from work and college at all different times, go straight in their rooms, and then possibly go out or still stay in their rooms. They've actually conversed with each other. I hear them actually talking to each other on the landing, or I hear them talking to each other in the kitchen. And I've heard one of them say, cook you some dinner, my relationship with them has really grown, and it's almost like we've really got to know each other all over again, which has just been amazing. I've realised that life is about being and not just doing, and it's okay just to sit in the garden, which I've really enjoyed sitting in the garden. I've enjoyed going on dog walks. It's the simple things, rather than thinking that charging around lakeside or ordering things online is going to make me happy. Actually sitting in the garden and just spending time with myself and with God has just made me a lot happier. This time as well, I've noticed I've made a lot more effort to actually get in touch with people, phone them up and to see how they are. And it's people I wouldn't normally sort of speak to on a weekly basis. I found that I've actually been speaking to them really regularly, and I've got to know people on a completely different level, albeit some of it through Zoom or over the phone. But I think coming out of this, I think there's going to be some much deeper relationships formed as a cause of this. I have to remember as well that nothing, I actually read somewhere that absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And instead of complaining like the Israelites, I need to accept that this is God's plan. And I'll leave it there. Hope everyone has a wonderful day. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. His face.